The person who got manipulated in your head just now. Describe them. Probably not a graduate. Probably not someone who reads or asks questions or catches contradictions mid-sentence. You have a face for this person, a general shape. And somewhere in that picture is an implicit guarantee that you are not them. That guarantee is the vulnerability. What I'm about to tell you is not about other people. It's about a specific mechanism that runs better in the mind of someone who believes they can see it clearly. And the more confident you are that this doesn't apply to you, the more accurately it probably does. Stay with that. In 2016, Philip Tetlock finished a decade-long study on prediction. He had asked hundreds of people, experts, academics, analysts, to forecast political and economic events, carefully, in their area of knowledge. The finding is well known. The detail that matters for this video is not. The worst predictors were not the uninformed ones. They were the most educated, the most articulate, the ones with the most developed frameworks for understanding the world. The people who could construct the most coherent explanation for why something would happen were consistently outperformed by people who knew less and held their conclusions more loosely. Coherence felt like accuracy. It wasn't. The question you should be sitting with is not why that happened to them. It's what coherence is doing in your head right now, and who benefited from building it. Keith Stanovich spent 30 years studying what he calls dysrationalia, the gap between intelligence as measured by cognitive tests and rationality as measured by actual decision-making. His finding is precise. High intelligence does not predict good reasoning. It predicts good rationalizing. The smarter you are, the better you are at constructing post-hoc justifications for conclusions you were already pointed toward. The machinery is more powerful. The output looks more convincing to everyone else and to you. This matters because manipulation doesn't need to plant a belief. It only needs to plant a direction. If you're already good at building arguments, at taking a premise and following it somewhere it feels inevitable, then all someone needs is to hand you the premise. The rest you will do yourself, fluently, in your own voice, with reasoning that feels like it came from inside. The person who is easy to manipulate in the way I'm describing does not feel manipulated. They feel like they figured something out. There's a form of this that researchers call galaxy-brained reasoning. The name is informal. The phenomenon is precise. It's what happens when an intelligent person follows a chain of logic, each step locally valid, and arrives at a conclusion that no one without that chain would ever accept. The chain is the vehicle. The destination was already chosen. The intelligence built the road. You have probably seen this in other people. The friend who constructed an airtight case for a decision that was obviously bad. The colleague who could explain, step by careful step, exactly why the thing that benefited them was also right for everyone else. You watched the reasoning and thought, how did they end up there? They didn't end up there. They started there. And their intelligence walked them to the explanation. The interesting question is not where they started. It's who pointed them at the starting line. Because the chain, once they were running it, was entirely theirs. Here's where the mechanism gets specific. The most effective lever for someone who identifies as intelligent is not flattery in the usual sense. Not, you're so smart. That's too visible. What works is positioning, framing things in a way that implies you're the kind of person who can see this. Most people miss it. The moment that frame lands, something in the reasoning system shifts. The conclusion being offered is now attached to an identity. Accepting it isn't just believing something, it's being the kind of person who gets it. Rejecting it means being like the people who don't. Robert Cialdini identified commitment and consistency as one of the most reliable mechanisms in persuasion. Once you have accepted the identity of someone who can see this, the mind works to protect that position. The smarter you are, the harder you work to maintain it, the more elaborate the defense becomes. At that point, you're not protecting a belief. You are protecting a version of yourself. There is a pattern recognition layer underneath all of this that makes it worse. Intelligence, in a meaningful operational sense, is largely pattern recognition. You see relationships between things that others miss. You catch the implication before it's stated. You read the room faster. These are real capacities, and they are the same capacities that generate false positives. A mind that is good at finding patterns will find them. In noise, in coincidence, in a sequence of events that a less pattern-hungry mind would read as random. Michael Shermer calls this patternicity, the tendency to find meaningful patterns in meaningless noise. The cost of missing a real pattern was historically much higher than the cost of inventing one, so the system errs toward detection, always toward detection. A skilled manipulator doesn't need to convince you of something. They only need to give you enough signal that your pattern detection system builds the rest, enough fragments, enough that feel like pieces, and then they let you find the shape. The shape you find feels like discovery. It is assembly. The pieces were given to you. There is a version of this that doesn't come from someone else at all. Daniel Kahneman spent 40 years mapping the gap between the mind's slow, deliberate reasoning and its fast, automatic processing. His central finding, simplified, most reasoning is not reasoning, it is justification. The conclusion was already there, the work was constructing the path to it. The smarter you are, the more elaborate the path can be, the more convincing it looks, the harder it becomes for anyone, including you, to locate the moment where the direction was set. Think about a belief you would be genuinely reluctant to give up, something that has to do with who you are, what you can see, what kind of person you turned out to be. Can you find the moment where you evaluated it rather than adopted it, where you came at it from outside and let the evidence decide, rather than the moment where something in you needed it to be true and your intelligence built the case? Most people can't find that moment, because it didn't happen the way reasoning is supposed to happen. It happened the other way around. I need to tell you something about this video before it ends. Everything I described, the identity lever, the framing that positions you as someone who can see what others miss, the suggestion that most people won't understand this, I have been using all of it on you. For the last 9 minutes, from the first sentence, this video told you implicitly that you are the kind of person who can understand how manipulation really works, that you are not like the ones who get caught. Your pattern recognition system found the shape I was building, assembled it, and it felt like comprehension. I'm not saying the content is false. I'm saying notice what just happened. Notice that you were engaged, that it felt like clarity, that you were building something inside your head that felt like yours. Notice that the feeling of understanding a manipulation and the experience of being inside one are not always different feelings. The question I want to leave you with is not about the people who manipulate you. It's about the argument that felt most like your own, the conclusion you worked hardest to reach, the one you trusted most because you built the path yourself. Was there a direction you were already facing when you started building it? And if there was, who pointed you there?